Ahangaha turi mu mujyi wa London. Umujyi wa London ni umurwa mukuru w'igihugu cy'Ubwongereza. Aha rero niho hagiye kubera igikorwa gitangira kwibuka jenoside yakorewe abatutsi. Turi ku itariki 7 z'ukwezi kwa 4. Abanyarwanda baturutse imijyi itandukanye aho batuye bose baje rero kugira ngo bifatanye muri iki gikorwa cyo kwibuka jenoside yakorewe abatutsi. Ariko si abanyarwanda bonyine bari hano, ahubwo turi kumwe n'abanyamahanga, no kuvuga inshuti z'u Rwanda ziganjemo rero abahagarariye ibihugu byabo hano mu gihugu cy'Ubwongereza. Iki gikorwa uko gitangiye ndetse kugeza tugishoje, Igicaniro TV turahababera, turabagezaho neza uko byari byifashe ndetse tubagezaho n'ibyavugiwe muri uyu muhango rero wo kwibuka jenoside yakorewe abatutsi. Murakoze cyane. Igicaniro TV, Jide Baje.
A reading from the letter of St. Paul to the Romans. Therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. For by the grace given to me, I say to every one of you, do not think of yourself more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment, in accordance with the faith God has distributed to each of you. For just as each of us has one body with many members, and these members do not all have the same function, so in Christ we, though many, form one body, and each member belongs to all the others. We have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it is serving, then serve. If it is teaching, then teach. If it is to encourage, then give encouragement. If it is giving, then give generously. If it is to lead, do it diligently. If it is to show mercy, do it cheerfully. Love must be sincere. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in love. Honour one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervour serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Do not be conceited. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Ends the reading.
My name is Mary Rose, and It is a deep honor to stand here today as we mark KWIBUKA 32. 32 years since the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. Growing up during one of the most volatile political periods in Rwanda, I lived through 9 of the 10 stages of genocide. The genocide did not happen overnight. It was carefully planned and methodically executed. Contrary to popular belief, the genocide against the Tutsi did not begin in April 1994. It was decades in the making, built on propaganda, discriminatory laws, and daily practices that systematically devalued Tutsi lives. By the time the killing started, the ground had long been prepared. Genocide does not begin with machetes. Many people who picked up a machete in 1994 had not yet been born when the foundation was being laid. Of the 9 stages of genocide I lived through, allow me to share my experience with one that changed my life and my family's completely. This was one of the most difficult stages that I can only share today, just to put context into my message of when the genocide began and how it evolved before April 1994. This was the dehumanization stage. Growing up as a school child, being publicly humiliated was a regular practice. We had become accustomed to it. But in 1992, there was a major shift which went beyond the classroom. Mainstream media began broadcasting the same message on repeat, that Tutsi were cockroaches, enemies, and a threat that needed to be eliminated. Radio, newspapers, and politicians used their platforms to spread fear, hatred, and teaching people to see their neighbors not as human beings, but as a problem to be solved. My family and I, like many other Tutsi families, we became without a problem. We were identified as the problem that needed to be solved. And life was never the same again. When hate speech became normalized, when conspiracy theories spread unchecked, when discrimination was tolerated, we moved one step closer to violence. Not all hate ends in genocide, but every genocide has been preceded by hate. Come April 1994, the but I carried psychological wounds that took years to heal. For a long time, I did not want to talk about any of this. To me, silence felt safer. But silence is not neutral. It comes at a cost. When we do not speak, others will tell our story. They will tell our story for us on our behalf. And they will choose how we tell the story. They may deny it, they may minimize it, distort it, or completely deny that genocide against the Tutsi ever happened. Survival is not just a moment, it is a lifetime. As a child and a young person, in the genocide aftermath, I carried an invisible weight with no language. I had no language for how I felt or what I felt. There were images that I could not erase. There were questions I had no answers for. On the outside, I was like a normal teenager, going to school like every other 15-year-old. Inside, everything had changed. I built a new life, and with it came a promising future. But the past had stayed with me. It stayed in memories, in triggers, in empty spaces that my loved ones have filled. Remembering is not just about looking back on sadness. It is an active, moral choice, which means choosing to face the truth, however uncomfortable. It is saying that the lives of our mothers, fathers, children, friends, neighbors, teachers, students, were not simply lost. It is saying that their stories do matter. And the world has a duty to remember this accurately. Today, you are participating in that moral responsibility. You're choosing to remember. For many, Rwanda has been trapped inside a single story. A story of machetes, mass graves, 100 days of unspeakable horror. That story, all is true. It is not a story. To stop there is to do violence again to those who died and those who are destroyed. Freezing these victims forever by refusing to see the fullness of who they were, reflecting their humanity and rob them of their dignity. For survivors, the weight of the genocide is not a something for all of us. A collective reckoning, a shared act of remembrance. To remember the victims is not to be held captive by the past. It is to choose hope. Not a hope like those of you, but a courageous hope that rises from the ashes. KWIBUKA calls us to name the truth. That's 1994. Two families and their names, their friends were targeted and slaughtered because of who they were. It is right that we sit with the weight of that. The silence of the world and the complicity of broken systems. Rwandans are not only a people of bridges and memorials. Those we lost had lives, they had names, they had an identity. They were our mothers, our fathers, our sons and daughters. Among them were intellectuals of all caliber, teachers, doctors, politicians. When we tell the full story, we begin to restore the dignity that genocide tried to erase. We rebuild by refusing to let Rwanda be reduced by a single story. A nation brought to its knees by one of the worst genocides in modern history. We remember honestly and insist on telling more than a genocide story. From ruins, physical, psychological, and emotional, the question was not only how do we live, but how do we live after all this? And the work to rebuild began with very small and fragile steps. Rebuilding was not an action, but a long journey. One that continues still. It is everyday courage. It is a survivor choosing to live a life worthy of passing on to the next generation. It is the Rwandan government deciding that every orphan child deserves a family and not an institution. It is a young person, like others, choosing not to inherit hatred, but responsibility. Rebuilding is a survivor choosing to sit with perpetrators in the church courts, telling the truth, facing each other with tears, anger, and forgiveness. It is a community choosing to plant trees where bodies once lay, as a sign that death does not have a final word. We have seen the fruits of that rebuilding in a country that has risen in devastation, one that has prioritized unity, dignity,
as it delivers its plan for Vision 2050. I've been travelling to Rwanda for over 15 years and been privileged to work with government, private businesses and organisations. And in my experience, Rwanda's renewal has been underpinned by three key elements. The first of these is leadership and governance. Transformation of a nation starts at the top, and Rwanda's leadership is committed to leading by example, serving its people and delivering real and positive change. Accountability is at the heart of this, and underperformance is addressed swiftly and effectively. There is a zero-tolerance approach to corruption, and the good of the nation is prioritized over the gain of the individual. Rwanda harnesses the political and economic power of all its citizens, especially its female population. With 64% of the Chamber of Deputies consisting of women, it is at the vanguard of gender equality. And what applies to its parliamentarians also applies to its government ministers, members of the judiciary, and CEOs. Where women thrive, where women are safe, where women are empowered, a country succeeds. The second key element of Rwanda's renewal has been its economic priorities. You can't have a strong nation without a strong economy. Over the past 25 years, GDP growth has averaged 7 to 8%. This has been achieved by focusing on a long-term, sustainable model. Tourism and conservation, digital technology, mining, agriculture and banking are all key elements of a diversified economy which attracts major international investment. And behind the headlines and the statistics is the transformation that this is having on individual families. On the farmer in Nyagatare who has increased crop production through solar-powered boreholes and irrigation schemes like the one in Muvumba Valley. On the young entrepreneur in Kigali who connects with investors and developers in Norscan House, the biggest hub in East Africa for scaling technology and entrepreneurship. Rwanda's renewal has been brought about because of having the right economic priorities. The third element of renewal has been having the courage to be different, to dare to dream, and not simply to go along with the crowd. Rwanda has blended its commitment to innovation with its homegrown solutions. Community, cleanliness, and collaboration still have a place in modern society, and Uganda, for example, is at the heart of that. Most modern political states have no equivalent of Umuhurera or Umushikamane, but Rwanda is willing to do things differently. In 2014, President Kagame said, "If you don't want to be criticized, say nothing, do nothing, and be nothing. I have no desire of doing nothing. People will talk, but I have a job to do, and that is to give Rwandans security, development, and opportunity." Today, Rwanda is a model to the world on how to remember, on how to unite, and how to renew. It is a nation which honours the memory of the victims and survivors. And in doing so, it ensures that Rwanda's journey towards prosperity continues as the greatest tribute to those we lost. So on this most solemn of occasions, it is a privilege to stand shoulder to shoulder with you, my friends, and your great nation. We look back with the deepest of sorrow and the shedding of tears. And we look to Almighty God to bless our future and help us to commit to continuing this journey of remembrance, of unity, and of renewal.
Years ago, I stood still and listened to stories etched in silence, every whisper a word. At a memorial, my 9-year-old heart felt the weight of a world torn apart. I learned of a truth too heavy to bear, of lives lost simply for just being there, of the genocide against the Tutsi, so cruel, where hatred made violence its only rule. But last summer, I returned to see a city looming in peace and dignity. Kigali, so clean, so full of grace. A shining light time can't erase. My mother still carries silent scars, for her brothers are now amongst the stars. And my parents were born far from their lands, because fear had forced their parents' hand. That kind of pain runs quiet and deep, a sorrow that never truly sleeps. Yet Rwanda rose, chose not to fall. It chose to forgive, to heal us all.
The voice of a new generation awakens to a new nation. Stories of a dark past settle harshly in young hearts. It did not have to be, but so it is. Yet they too refuse to be consumed. Survival is etched in both past and present. Renewal is a promise kept to those departed. Unity, it's a duty. We owe it to our motherland, we owe it to ourselves. I am because my brother and sister is. Humanity must shine brighter than the dark skies above. What binds us must hold stronger than what separates us. It is work worth doing, a journey well worth taking.
Today, I'm 12, and I choose to speak for every voice that cannot speak. I speak for the family, for the ones we've lost, for the dreams that war and hate once tossed. I say, never again, let that be true. For me, for you, for all what we do. Hate tries to break what love can mend, but love stood taller in the end. As Romans 12:21 says with might, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. You remember not to dwell in pain, but so it never happens again. This is my prayer, my vow, my stand, for peace to grow across every land. As we choose good over evil, we build a future that hate can never break. This is our story. Told with love, lived with courage, and never forgotten.
Distinguished leaders and excellencies, members of the Commonwealth family present, dear friends, we gather today in solemn remembrance for the 32nd commemoration of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. This is a moment not only to honor the memory of over 1 million innocent lives lost, but also to confront a painful truth. The world failed Rwanda. The promise of never again, born from the ashes of past atrocities, was not upheld. We must acknowledge this failure with humility and resolve. For remembrance without honesty cannot lead to prevention. Today we bow our heads to the victims, men, women, and children whose lives were taken in unimaginable brutality. We stand with the survivors whose resilience continues to inspire the world. And we reaffirm that memory is a responsibility. To remember is to resist indifference. To remember is to defend truth against denial and distortion. Yet even in the shadow of such profound tragedy, Rwanda offers the world a powerful testament to human resilience and renewal. In the decades since 1994, Rwanda has chosen a path not of vengeance, but of unity. Through courage, leadership, and a commitment to justice and reconciliation, the nation has rebuilt its social fabric and restored hope amongst its people. My connection with Rwanda started far back when I served in different capacities back home. That connection has been shaped by lessons from Rwanda's story of resilience and recovery. Using several approaches, including homegrown solutions, Rwanda has created a model that should be emulated by other post-conflict nations. Community-based justice mechanisms, national reconciliation efforts, and inclusive governance have helped foster trust where there was once deep division. Rwanda's journey reminds us that even the deepest wounds can begin to heal when dignity, accountability, and shared purpose guide a nation forward. It is a story not of forgetting the past, but of transforming it into a foundation for peace. Rwanda's contributions to the Commonwealth reflect the same spirit of renewal and leadership. From successfully hosting the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in 2022, to its active role in the Troika, and its consistent engagement in different Commonwealth meetings, Rwanda has demonstrated a strong commitment to the values that bind us together as enshrined in our charter. Its voice within our association is both constructive and forward-looking. It is shaped by history, yet focused firmly on the future. As we reflect today, we must also look ahead. The responsibility to prevent such atrocities does not rest with one nation alone. It belongs to all of us. Leaders across the Commonwealth and beyond must remain vigilant against the forces that enable violence, hate speech, division, discrimination, and the erosion of truth. We must be clear Denial of genocide is not merely an affront to memory. It is a threat to peace. When truth is distorted, when history is rewritten, and when human dignity is diminished, the conditions of violence can take root once again. It is our duty to challenge these dangers wherever they appear. To the young people of the Commonwealth, I say this: your role today will define our future. Your voices matter. Your actions matter. Stand against hatred in all its forms, online and offline. Defend truth. Promote understanding. Build bridges where others seek to divide. The future we aspire to depends on your courage to uphold the values we share. Let this commemoration not only be a moment of mourning, but let it be a call to action. Let us recommit ourselves to building societies where diversity is celebrated, where justice prevails, and where every individual is treated with dignity and respect. In honoring the memory of those we lost, and in standing with those who survived, let us renew our collective pledge. Never again must mean never again. I thank you.
Venerable Group Leader, Archdeacon, Your Excellencies, Heads of Mission and diplomats, Right Honorable Andy Mitchell, glad to see you. My British counterpart in Kigali, Alison Thorpe, thank you for being here. Distinguished guests, members of the Rwandan community, the speakers who shared with us reflection, friends, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we gather again to mark KWIBUKA 32, the 32nd commemoration of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. KWIBUKA means to remember. And remembrance is not simply an act of reflection. It is a responsibility. It is our duty to honor the lives that we lost, to stand with survivors, and to ensure that the truth of what happened in Rwanda is never forgotten and never distorted. 32 years ago, the world witnessed one of the darkest chapters of the 20th century. In just 100 days, more than 1 million innocent people, men, women, children, were murdered because simply they were Tutsi. An entire community was targeted for no reason other than this identity. The genocide did not happen by accident. It was planned, it was organized, and executed by a regime driven by an ideology of ethnic extremism. Propaganda demonized an entire group of people. Extremist leaders mobilized militias and ordinary citizens to kill their neighbors. The machinery of the state was turned into an instrument of extermination. And while the killings unfolded before the eyes of the world, the international community failed to act. Yet, Rwanda did not disappear into that darkness. The genocide was stopped by the Rwandan Patriotic Front, and our country began the long and difficult journey of recovery. Rwanda chose unity over division, reconciliation over revenge, and reconstruction over despair. Today, Rwanda stands as a testament to the resilience of its people, a nation rebuilt through courage, determination, and an unwavering commitment to dignity and shared humanity. But remembrance is not only about the past, it is also about the present. The ideology that fueled the genocide did not vanish in 1994. Its remnants persist in different forms. One of the most dangerous manifestations of this ideology is a terrorist group called the FDLR, a group composed of individuals responsible for the genocide, fugitives who enjoy safe haven and continue to operate in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Rwanda has faced the persistent threat posed by this terrorist group ever since. Let us be clear. Genocide ideology should never be tolerated anywhere, not in Africa, not in Europe, and not anywhere in the world. Justice remains another unfinished chapter. Even today, there are individuals suspected of participating in the genocide who have found refuge in different parts of the world. And while we gather here in London, 6 or 7 of those suspects continue to reside here in the United Kingdom. Survivors have identified them. Their names and whereabouts are known. United Kingdom courts have found a case to answer against them. Extradition, deportation, or trial in the United Kingdom have failed or have worryingly delayed. More than 3 decades later, this is deeply troubling. The International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda transferred 8 genocide cases to Rwanda, recognizing and acknowledging the country's capacity to prosecute these crimes within our judicial system. Countries in the West, including France, Germany, the Netherlands, Denmark, Norway, Belgium, Sweden, the United States, Canada, and other countries in sub-Saharan Africa, including Uganda and Malawi, have taken steps to prosecute, extradite, or deport genocide suspects on their territories. But 32 years after the genocide, the United Kingdom remains the only country in the West where known genocide suspects continue to live untried as their day in court recedes each painful day. Genocide is a crime against humanity. Liberating mankind from its scourge demands law, demands policy, demands intent, and demands action. Intent with no action delays justice, which in turn breeds impunity. And this impunity has victims. And in Rwanda's case, these are the genocide survivors, the women and men, most of them in advanced age, who wait for justice each day. For them, it is not 20 years of hard work to deliver justice in the United Kingdom. It is a heartbreaking 7,300 days and counting of delay. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, KWIBUKA is also a moment to reflect on the lessons of history. Genocide does not begin with violence. It begins with words, with the normalization of hatred, the spread of propaganda, and the dehumanization of other people. When such words graduate into narratives, and those narratives are allowed to fester unchecked, the consequences can be catastrophic. And this is why remembrance matters. This is why education matters. And this is why confronting denial, wherever it appears, is so important. It is the message that unity, reconciliation, healing, and renewal are possible, even after the deepest of tragedies. Rwanda's journey over the past 3 decades demonstrates that a nation can rise from unimaginable destruction and build a future grounded in dignity, stability, and hope. This does not erase the pain of the past, but it affirms the strength of the human spirit and the possibility of rebuilding a society together. As we commemorate KWIBUKA 32 here in London, let us remember the victims. We stand with survivors, and we reaffirm our collective commitment to ensure that the ideology that led to the genocide is never allowed to take root anywhere again. Let us honor the memory of those we lost, not only through remembrance, but through action, through defending the truth, through rejecting hatred, and through standing firm against injustice wherever it appears. Because the promise of never again was never meant to be words only. It must be a responsibility we all carry. Thank you very much.
Please be seated.